Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in a Zone 5B in mid-Michigan. And today we are back in a shady part of the garden and we are going to change out a boxwood ball. And I am going to use that boxwood ball to be able to place out into our front boxwood hedge because we have a couple of them that are yellowing there. And then we're going to take some time to plant out hopefully a couple of those hydrangeas that we got through mail order. And the ones that we don't are going to go in the potager garden. All right, let's get going.
All right, well, we are going to start over here in our shady corner of the garden that I love so much and I think is beautiful. But I have a small boxwood that is right down here that is healthy, but is not doing much to, really show its stuff off. So I think what we're going to do is take and replace it with this boxwood. So this boxwood has a bit of a topiary style and it has a few inches of wonderful trunk showing. And I think this is going to be an excellent place to put it so that I can then play musical plants and take the one that is in the ground over here and replace one of the less healthy boxwood shrubs that we have in our boxwood border out near the front garden. So we're going to dig this one out. We're going to replace it with the one that is the topiary style. And then we're going to head out to the front garden and replace one of the unhealthy shrubs. All right, here we go. Well, first we're going to take this light out of the garden because it's just kind of in the way. And we're going to make sure that we don't damage it in the process. Now, this should be a fairly easy shrub to dig out. Boxwoods tend to have fairly shallow root systems, so it's really nice. They transplant quite easily and they don't require a ton of digging. And just as I thought this one is coming out really nice and easy for me, we're just going to be able to tug on it and get it out. It does have a nice root system, and I can tell that it's starting to actually put out quite a bit of new roots from the plant pot that it was in originally. And I think we're going to have to dig a little bit of a bigger ball for this one coming out of the pot. However, we're going to take off some of the extra soil that's on it because this potting mix is fairly loose. And so we're going to try to kind of get it back to the most robust set of roots that we need and take out any excess so that I don't have to dig quite as big of a hole. You can see though that we've got some really nice healthy roots growing on in this, and all of those have grown on this season because we just planted this one into this pot this season. So I'm really happy with the growth that it's put on so far. And I think it's going to make a nice impact in this space. Again, we're basically replacing a similar plant with another similar plant or the same plant, but we're going to have some added height. And this is going to really provide that evergreen structure in this part of the garden where everything else around it is going to die back in the winter. So it's going to be really great. Just look at those nice healthy white roots. That's a perfect size root ball. That's really going to not take quite as much digging, but we've definitely managed to keep some of the healthiest roots. And I think what we're going to want to do here is possibly remove this hosta just to make a little bit of extra space as well. So let's dig that out before we start digging the hole for the boxwood, because I think that that just kind of is taking up a little bit of root space and a little bit of sun space. We'll give that to, oh, probably my sister. She's doing a lot of planting these days, and I'm giving her a lot of extra plants that I dig up or divide. And so her garden is definitely growing this season. I'm going to try to get as much of the soil off as possible. just because it's really important to keep as much soil in the garden beds as I can. That native soil is really important because that's where all of the minerals and good bacteria and good fungi and all of that stuff is existing. So we want to keep it. This is really heavy clay over in this area, and it's also really dry because we have roots from both the hawthorn tree as well as the neighbor's maple tree that compete for water in this area. You'd be really surprised to know just how far root tree systems actually go out from their base. They're quite near the surface, and they do take quite a bit of water out. And this is, like I said, very dry, so all the soil's kind of falling back down into the hole as I dig. So I'm just having to dig it back out with my hand to make room for the plant. Let's see if this is deep enough. Couple of things I always like to check after I dig a hole and place a plant is the hole deep enough, and is the right side of the plant facing the spaces that I want it to. And this is looking good. So what we're going to do is take some of the soil from this plant pot. This is just basic potting soil, and we're going to use that to mix in with the native soil and just help add some organic matter to this garden bed. I try to do this whenever I can, and it's especially easy to do with potting mix after the end of the season, because by that time you know that most of the fertilizer product, if there was some that was already in there, has been fed to the plants that were in it already and has been kind of time released or heat released into the soil. Well, now that we've got it in, we actually need to just make sure that it's got plenty of water because, like I said, this soil is so dry, and I'm loving how this looks already. But we definitely need to make sure that this gets watered in really well. And you can see how it sits a few inches up above the soil, which is very different from the one before, and the removal of that hosta behind it also makes a really big difference. Watering always helps to settle the soil in around the roots and just make sure it gives this plant a really good start. Now, I haven't added any biotone or any additional fertilizers to this because it really doesn't need it. And it's also not a good time to use those in the fall, any types of, instant fertilizers. Biotone would be okay, but it's just not necessary. Well, I think this looks absolutely gorgeous. I'm super happy with the choice to change this out. I love it. On this corner, it makes just a nice little evergreen statement, and I think it's going to look beautiful in the winter. So now that we have the other boxwood ball out, we're out in the front garden bed and we're taking a look at all of those boxwood balls that we have out here. Need to make a decision as to which one we're going to replace with the healthy one, because you can see I have a couple of boxwoods here that are definitely yellowing, and I think they were planted a little bit too low, but also I think they may have just not been a great variety for my garden. These were the green velvet variety. And so I think we're going to take out this little one right here and replace it because it's about the right size to match. Now, the type of boxwood that seems to do really well in my area, my soil, my site, my zone, is the Green Mountain. So the Green Mountain boxwood seems to do the best, and I think the ones that I'm replacing are green velvet boxwoods. Now, I don't like to waste anything at all. And as you know, I recently planted some other of the boxwoods that I replaced out here in, and I put them out in the way back garden. And we're going to do that with this one as well. So once we get this one placed and situated, we're going to take the other one out to the way back garden and find a nice place for it. Now I want to make sure that I don't plant this too deep because as you can see there is a gutter drain that spouts out the water after it rains right in this direction. So anything that might be planted too deeply will definitely suffer. So I want to make sure this one is right at soil level or even just above the soil level. So if it sinks a little bit after planting, it will still be okay. And you'll notice this is really a nice tightly clipped boxwood. And so next year, as I'm trimming things, I'll try to even things out a little bit. I definitely have some boxwoods in here that are a little bit different sides than others, sizes than others, but eventually they will all come out about the same. A healthy plant looks better than an unhealthy plant any day. So we're just going to water this one in as well, make sure that we get the soil tucked in around those roots so they have really nice good contact with it. Like I said, it's been really dry. We might get some rain soon, so that would be great. And this is kind of a heavy clay soil out here as well. So what I'm doing is just stopping in between waterings to allow the water to soak in a bit before I continue to water. That way it doesn't just, run off the top of the soil. Rather, I let it soak in between each time I turn on the watering. Well, that should do it, and I think that looks a whole lot better. It'll be nice if the other one comes back nicely next spring. If it doesn't, though, we'll have to try to find a replacement for that one as well. All right, well, let's get this boxwood and take it to the wayback. So as you can see, I've got a couple of boxwoods here in the front, and I've planted two of them, and I've just laid out the third boxwood back behind them. And the spacing is about even, I would say. I think I didn't measure it out or anything like that. I just eyeball things usually in the garden. I'm pretty lackadaisical about that, but I think it's going to look really nice over here. And it actually happens to be in the place where there is a weed currently growing. So as I dig out that weed, I will make space for the boxwood. So this is pretty much I would say part shade to full shade area. We recently took out some branches that helped open up this space, so I think part shade is probably a fair estimate of how much sun this area gets. And I'm hoping that the boxwoods do a little bit better back here. When you have a little bit of a different situation, the soil is drier back here because there's no gutter that is draining out, and there is a little bit more shade. So potentially we have a whole different growing site. So we'll give these a try for a couple of years and see how they do. And it should be readily apparent within like the first year of planting if this aspect is better for them than where we had them before. So I'm just going to tuck the roots down into the hole. This one had a pretty good root system actually. It just was not doing well where it was. But it's nice to know that it's got good roots because that means it has the potential to do a great job at growing. And again, I'm going to try to make sure that I plant this right at the height of the back side of the hill, not the front side, just to ensure that it doesn't get buried down in there. There's really nice drainage on slopes, though. It tends to run off. This is quite a steep slope as well, so we get quite a bit of drainage here, even though it is heavy clay soil. It's definitely improving over time, though, as I work in it and add some compost to it. All right, well, let's get some water on this boxwood here so that we can again help to ensure that the roots have good contact with the soil and that it's situated well on this hill, and hopefully get it off to a really good start. It's a great time to be doing this transplant because the fall is just going to allow those roots to continue to develop while the soil continues to be warm this fall. And next spring, hopefully, we'll see a really big difference. I can't wait. I think this looks great. I'm really happy with the way that this turned out, you guys. It's great when you start to see something kind of come together and look really like a garden. I know it looks like I'm talking to you right now and I'm saying something different, but that's just because I'm doing a voiceover because my microphone died. So here we are now just taking a look at the plantings and kind of the back and checking it out to see what it looks like all together, because from different vantage points, I think you can kind of see how this line of boxwood balls really adds to the path. And I've just really enjoyed building this path over time, slowly but surely. And this garden back here is kind of coming together slowly but surely. And I've just been really happy with some of the comments that people have made about it, inspiring them to try things that maybe otherwise would take them a lot longer to do, and to tackle some things one step at a time. All right, well, we are moving now into the back garden, and this is where we are going to plant some other hydrangeas. So we have a couple of smooth hydrangeas that we're going to plant in this area, and I'm always looking for ways to continue to improve on my garden beds. So what we're going to do is we're going to take out some of the daylilies that are here. They are a beautiful peachy color and they smell great, but they only bloom for a couple of weeks. And smooth hydrangeas provide interest for at least a couple of months. And so I think they'll start blooming when the daylilies did, but they will continue to bloom and provide interest for quite some time. So what I'm doing right now is taking some of that potting mix again and just working it in with some of the soil that we have. And that's going to help to create some more moisture retention. I think this is going to be a good spot for these smooth hydrangeas because it gets the eastern sun. It'll be shaded from probably the late afternoon western sun. And there is also a drain pipe that runs out here and puts some rain out from the gutters. Now what we're going to plant on this side is the smaller of the two, and this is the mini Mauvette hydrangea. And I think it's going to look really cute underneath of this panicle hydrangea, and keeping it within that beautiful mauve pink color family. Now the nice thing about plants that are this size in the quart pot is you can see you can fit them in just about any spot, and you don't have to dig a super huge hole. So that is fantastic. And I also have created some garden labels for them that will stand up a few inches from the ground, that I'll be able to tell exactly what it is that I've planted. So in addition to that, in this same area, I am going to be planting my Incrediball blush hydrangea. This is another smooth hydrangea, but this one is much taller. This one gets to be about 3 to 4 feet tall and wide. So this is really going to fill in this area. Now I'm going to leave some of the daylilies because I definitely want to continue to keep a lot of the coverage that it provides for the ground so that I avoid getting weeds. And I'm just going to dig out the daylilies where I want to plant this for now. And as it grows on and gets bigger next year or the year after, I'll continue to remove any additional daylilies that I need to. And these are some really nice daylily clumps. So I will also offer these up and see if somebody wants these, because Like I said, they look pretty, they smell good, but they do have a bit more maintenance in addition to the fact that they don't flower for as long. So, they do require some deadheading if you want them to look tidy. And also during this time of year, they start to have yellowing foliage that you have to continuously kind of clean up, unless you don't mind having that in your garden. I feel like my garden is not quite large enough to, kind of disguise that, and I feel the need to clean it up. So that's going to rid me of a little bit more of some of the garden maintenance tasks that I have. All right. So let's use some of this potting mix again, just to add more organic matter into this soil. Smooth hydrangeas do like to have consistently moist soil. They can tend to flop in the late afternoon if they have heavy heat or sun and might be dehydrated. So this will help to make the soil just what they like. So it's really fun to try out plants that are in the quart size like this one, because it gives you an opportunity to buy something at a lower price and, kind of give it a try and see if you like it. And then if you do, you can always go back and get more. But if it doesn't turn out and your garden experiment doesn't work, you can not feel too bad about spending too much money on it. But I have a feeling these are going to do great in this spot, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how much they can grow on next year. They're not going to show much right now. In fact, you can barely see them amongst all of the other plants, but I think they are tucked in just right to some spots that are going to make them happy. They're going to be a wonderful addition to this garden with the other hydrangeas around as well. And you can see the Incrediball hydrangeas that we have in the background there. So it's just going to kind of tie it all together.
Well, thank you all for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this video, getting out into the garden and planting so many things. We got a lot done today and it's been great. Hope you're enjoying a nice fall day where you are, and we'll see you next time.